Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. South Africa has emerged as a key supplier of coal and iron ore to India, which increasingly relies on imports to meet its growing domestic demand. Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer tells us more. Welcome, Martin.
Thanks, Shannon.
Can you tell us why South Africa has emerged as the preferred supplier to India for their coal and iron ore?
Yeah, so the coal story is quite interesting because they take lower grade coal, and so coal that Eskom thinks is theirs, India says no, we can also burn that, which is quite interesting because traditionally the business model for South African coal miners was that Eskom is the dustbin. You give them the trash. You don't wash that coal, you just send it straight in, but you charge them very little money. And then you keep the good coal and you export it. But with India on the scene, they're also quite keen on that lower grade coal, and they've got quite a few power stations at the coast. I think deliberately put at the coast because they realize they'd have to import. But in the meantime, there's been a bit of a hiccup with their own supplies. They've got about 100 million tons reserve, 100 billion tons of coal reserves. But they've found themselves in a situation where their own supply hasn't been able to catch up with demand. And they've looked around, and of course they import from quite a few countries, Indonesia and Australia. But they see South Africa as a good bet. It's become a preferred supplier because of what they see as a liberal trade regime and also fairly good pricing. So it's fitting in with their needs at the moment. They probably haven't planned as well as they should have, found themselves with a shortfall. They can come to South Africa to get it fairly good price, close proximity, and we've become a preferred supplier, I think, with all those factors being taken into account.
Now, you say that they can use the same coal that Eskom uses. Does that have any impact on our coal supplies to ourselves?
Well, Eskom is worried about that. They don't want India sort of soaking up the coal that they want, because if there's another potential buyer for it, obviously that demand will lift the price. They have been having to pay more already, but they've reached agreements, fairly long-term agreements with the local suppliers, which seems to put them in good stead. But you can see they always get twitchy when it comes to coal. They need coal. Eskom is like a hungry dragon. It just can't consume enough coal. So with the competition coming in there like that, I'm sure that is why they've often said to Parliament, hey, this is a strategic resource, don't let it go against that background. But I think there's room for everybody.
Now, what effect do you think the current mining unrest could have on sort of our supplying to India? Yeah,
see, India's hardly got it out of its mouth that we're one of the preferred suppliers and we're having unrest here. That would be a hiccup for them of a serious nature if the contagion of the strikes actually entered the mining space in any serious way. At the moment, I think we're fortunate that it hasn't hit coal that hard, because we're also concerned. Our lights have got to stay on. If those strikes go into the coal area with great penetration, I think that we'd have to really take note, because we can't let those stocks at Eskom go down too low. And at the same time, it would ruin some of our positions on the international markets. Look, the demand is down globally, but you still need that ticking over, otherwise your business runs dry. So having some extra demand now from India is very good for us, because the price isn't that good, and a strike would just put a spanner in the works. Hopefully, it seems like it's not spreading that far, and it's restricting itself to platinum at the moment, because gold is back at work. But every now and again it pops up in unexpected places, and hopefully it doesn't do any damage to our coal.
Now, India's sudden raw material shortage has been described as a reflection of deep structural flaws in the development of India's natural resources. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'm glad that comes from India. I wouldn't like to tell them they've got deep structural flaws, but those are the reports coming out of India saying that they haven't planned this properly. Supply isn't meeting demand. They have got the reserves. They've got the reserves of coal. They're not pulling them out fast enough. They've got the reserves of iron ore. I think 28 billion tons of iron ore, and definitely there are some legal framework issues there. because these mines aren't producing as a result of widespread illegal mining in the area. So provinces have been told you've got to cease mining while this investigation into illegal mining takes place. And that has ended up with quite a serious shortfall for some of the steel mills. And they've had to look across at South Africa. And Kumba Iron Ore has been approached. That's the JSC listed company, Kumba Iron Ore, along with a part of the Anglo-American group. They are supplying SR Steel, which is quite a big Indian steel company. JSW also taking supplies from South Africa. SR also looking to Assmang, which is an iron ore supplier in South Africa, for more supplies. So the shortfall is said to be around about 40 million tons to 50 million tons going through to March next year. So that's quite a substantial amount, even from South African sources, which look like probably supplying about 2 million tons in all. So it's not a huge amount, but it's a good offtake at this point when the iron ore price is down.
Now, you've briefly mentioned illegal mining. What effect is it having on their economy?
Well, as you can see there, once the investigations go into the illegal mining and mining ceases, that revenue that those mines would obtain from selling that into their own steel mill infrastructure doesn't happen. And at the same time, you've got to then source some of your iron ore from outside of the country, which can be a costly exercise. But it seems that because there's so many investigations into illegal mining and so many provinces not producing the way they used to, the price internally might also be high, so it might even pay people to get in some extra supplies from outside. And fortunately, South Africa is the pick of the bunch at the moment.
Well, at least it's some good news for us.
It is. Their hiccup has become our advantage and our opportunity.
Well, thank you very much, Martin.
A great pleasure, Shannon.
That's the show for today. Join us again next time for more news and insight into what's happening in the mining world.